I'm MarzGurl.
And I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 29 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover episode 29 of City Hunter, titled, A 500 Yen Job, A Cute Little Girl Wins Ryo's Heart.
So even when they're broke, they'll accept literally anything.
I mean, sometimes you just want a soda.
You know, he might even be able to get like 3 sodas.
Well, yeah, because this is the 80s. 500 yen went a lot further.
Yeah.
I just remember constantly the last time we were there in Japan, which seems so long ago, but I still think on it fondly. Every chance I got, I would get that specific melon soda from, I think it was a Fanta melon.
I can almost guarantee it was Fanta. You can just go into a lot of grocery stores and get a Fanta melon, but what this was a Fanta melon cream soda.
Yes.
And like that's much, much rarer. If you Google it, you might get lucky and see some random ass like Amazon listing for it, and it'll be wildly expensive because they so rarely make it and release it, it seems. Now you can get other brands of melon cream soda, and they're good too. They're very, very good.
But we've tried them, and they're not exactly the same.
Not the same
like,
as
this
the
one was
Fanta
so
one.
good, it haunts me. To this day,
Well,
it was
it's
so good.
the same way I feel about when I was living in Japan and I went to McDonald's and they had the double Choco McFlurry.
I hate you that you got to try that and I have no idea what that tastes
I mean,
like.
think of a McFlurry, a normal McFlurry, you know, you think, oh, it's got like Oreo or something or maybe M&M's in it or whatever. It's like that, but the ice cream is chocolate and there's bits of some other kind of chocolate. I don't know if it was like Kit Kats or something. I don't remember now. But, oh my God, their ice cream was chocolate. And even then, that was just a limited time thing just for Japan, too. So even in Japan, it was rare, and I have never seen it again, and I'm so upset.
We're just upset about snacks. That's all that is.
I know, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the show. I'm sorry.
Other than being able to pay 500 yen for those kinds of things.
Yeah, I would say that McFlurry even cost probably about that much.
Probably a little less than.
Maybe. This was like 2008, so...
No, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
In any case, we'll go ahead and get into this episode today, which is about art. So specifically, we're starting off the episode over at an artist's apartment. She's currently working on a children's book with her next door neighbor, Yuka, who's a little elementary school girl who loves her work.
She's like 10 or something.
Yeah, thereabouts, a little girl. And she loves her work, is a big fan of her work. And we find out that this woman is named Saori Murakoshi. She's an artist who fancies herself as a would-be author, a children's author, which is a nice thing to aspire to.
Yeah, and her art is pretty good. You know, it's cute.
It looks surprisingly like the crows that we see, the comedy crows here in City Hunter.
I mean, they're cute too. Maybe,
they are.
Maybe she's the artist on all these panels where there's a funny comedy crow flying in the background.
Could be. Now, as she's there working, on her own work, her work specifically, we have to specify for the purposes of this episode, 2 guys, like 2 men in black, show up at her door and kind of pound the door down like, hey, where's our art?
Yar, give us the children's art. Vraga flaga.
And she's like, I told you no, I'm not giving you my art anymore. And they're like, too bad. Oh, see this little picture you're working on? Be terrible if something bad happened to it.
I mean, it's not our art, so what do we care? This isn't what we asked you to draw, so oh no, all this black ink.
No. And so we're given this impression that these men are here to steal her art, which no matter what circle you're in, especially in the days that we live in, don't steal art, especially directly from the artist or author.
And most certainly don't put it up on OpenSea attached to an NFT. Like, don't be doing that shit, guys. Like,
don't
knock
do
that
it.
off. I bet you these particular dudes who are attached to a particular publisher would be like, haha, not only are we gonna take your work, but we're gonna attach it to an NFT and
We're gonna put it
sell
on the blockchain.
No, don't put my art on the blockchain.
And they're doing all of this in front of a child. Like, you don't care if you have tiny witnesses. For shame.
Well, Japan most certainly seems like the kind of place that's like, who's gonna believe a tiny witness? They don't care.
Well, in any case, this little girl, Yuka, she feels very strongly about this, that her art shouldn't be stolen by these men in black, and this looks like a job for City Hunter. Now, what's gonna happen here is that in the next scene, we see that Ryo and Kaori are just cleaning the apartment at night, and they get a phone call from this girl.
How does the girl have City Hunter's phone
That's exactly what I'm
number?
about to bring up. How does she know how to contact City Hunter outside of the XYZ at Shinjuku Station? She had his number.
And like, like, you have to talk to specific people through certain channels to even know how to contact City Hunter in the first place.
The fact that she's even aware of City Hunter. This 7-year-old knows who City Hunter is.
Who is, like, we never meet her family, right?
No, we don't.
Who is her family? How does she know? Like,
I don't even know. Because there's...
Daddy always said, if you get into trouble, call this man. Like, did Rio work for, like, this guy's dad or something before in the past?
For this girl's dad.
Yeah. This
or parents.
Yeah. How?
I don't even know. Because, like, it's not like we haven't seen that City Hunter sometimes has a business card that you can find, or that he hasn't left stationary.
And it has his own logo, yeah.
Exactly. So it's not like it's unheard of that Ryo's number is floating out there in the ether amongst Shinjuku. It's just the fact that this kid got a hold of it. How?
I don't know.
What is this kid wrapped up in? Has the kid done crime?
Has the kid done crime?
Has the kid been criming?
And she just has skirted for this long without getting entangled with City Hunter, and she's like, I'm just not gonna tell City Hunter about all the other crimes I have committed.
Yeah, small crimes, because, you know, they're in elementary school.
10-year-old crimes.
10-year-old crimes. So yeah, Ryo and Kaori are there at the apartment. He gets this call, several calls it appears, of Yuka trying to hire City Hunter, and he's there on the phone like, huh? What? I can't hear, the vacuum's on. What? You want me to beat how many guys up for how much?
500 yen, like $5.
3 guys for $5? Quit prank calling me. And he hangs up. And you get the impression she's done this a couple of times already. He picks up one more time like, hello? What? I told you not to call me. And Yuka is aware enough to tell him, there's a beautiful woman who's in danger. Please come help quick.
So not only does she know his phone number,
she knows his tics.
Yeah. How? Josh, how?
Like, I get it's for the episode, but like the whole reason we do this podcast is to ask these questions. These burning questions about how this little girl knows so much about City Hunter.
Yeah, you maybe. I can imagine that conversation gets around town like, oh man, did you hear about, like, there's some guy out there and he does like this stuff. You don't actually get the dude's contact info. This is underground channel sort of stuff. And not only does she have his phone number, but she knows he really likes the pretty women.
Like, how does a child know these things? Like, we see it spoken to later in the episode. That clearly City Hunter has a reputation. Other people recognize the name City Hunter. But a child, though, that's something else. Mm-hmm. So Ryo goes ahead and decides to take the case now that he knows there's a beautiful woman involved, tells Kaori, all right, take care of the rest of the cleaning and I'm out, and runs over to the apartment where Saori is living, which we see the sign at the top. It's in katakana, but we translated it. The name of her apartment building is Maison Sunrise.
God, Sunrise, what is up with you? You are so proud of yourself.
Every chance you get, just have to throw your name in there.
I guess since they figure, oh, well, this is mostly a comedy series, it would be really funny if we just put our name wherever the hell we felt like. That would be really funny. What if Sunrise just owned everything? I mean, I'm thinking back on that episode where that producer or animator or whoever it was said, Sunrise isn't a very good company, but I like it anyway, or whatever it was that he said.
Uh-huh.
And so maybe that's what it was that they just had such a good camaraderie of like, oh my god, this work is so hard, but at least we're working on it together. You know, we can make it fun somehow by just self-inserting wherever we feel like it.
Like, that's what counts for comedy, is not just the sight gags, we also have to throw our name in everywhere.
Yeah.
Just put my name on it.
This episode actually has tons of little sights and gimmicks that are gonna be continuing to pop up throughout this series. And like, I don't know, this episode is just particularly gag funny.
Yes, yeah, I would agree with that. So Ryo runs into the apartment all the way up to the 7th floor where Saori lives, busts in the door because, you know, Yuka is impressing upon him, come on, she's in danger, we gotta go right now. So he busts in her door and she's there and he sees her from across the room like, what do you got there? A knife? No! Don't do it! You have so much to live for! Mm-hmm. And it turns out she's just like...
opening a package.
She's like putting stuff away.
No, she said, how am I going to cut the strings on this package?
Well, no, she is putting stuff away because there was a problem. She has decided with all of these threats from the men in black that I'm just going to put away all my art and I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do art anymore. Mm-hmm. To which Ryo is kind of listening to what her plight is, but he's a little mad at Yuka for like lying that it was a little more dire than it seemed.
Right.
I mean, yeah, if you're yelling bloody murder, you expect there to be some sort of immediate peril. You want there to be a fire. You want there to be somebody at knife point or gun point. But no, somebody's just putting stuff away. That's not an emergency, kid.
Yeah, it really just kind of blue-balled him on the action there.
But she begs him, please help, please listen to her. There's stuff going on here that I can't help with because I gotta go to cram school. Can we pinky promise on it? Will you do it, please? I'll pay you later.
A 10-year-old going to cram school, man, she's really trying to get into the best middle school.
I guess, but like that's Japanese culture as we're aware of it.
That's pressure. That's high societal pressure.
The sooner you can get into a cram school to improve your status in life, the better.
Also, just the idea that you get selected, like, you know how you can try and go to the college of your choice, right? Mm-hmm. And then maybe you get in and maybe you don't, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll get into my next selection or the next one, or just go to community college or a tech college because I didn't get where I wanted to go because I didn't study hard enough or whatever it is. You're doing that your entire youth life,
like you're
as
wasting
a Japanese child, because in America you just go to whatever school you live closest to in your district. Okay, that's not true of Japan. You study really friggin' hard and you try to get into the quote-unquote best,
the good school,
middle and high schools.
Yes,
and that could be anywhere.
It's anywhere. Just, you always see it in anime that it's the high school you're trying to get into or the college you're trying to get into, not the middle school. Like, at best for this kid, they're trying to get into 6th grade.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure for, like, a 9-year-old. So anyway, Yuka has to run off and leave Ryo to it to try and figure out, okay, what's really going on here. So Saori fills him in on what's going on. So this is my book, and she hands him a copy of a book called The Crow's Child, but it's got a different name on the cover other than her own. The name on the cover is from a Mr. Mutsumi Kurawada, who is the president of her current publishing company. And Ryo's asking, well, why is this guy's name on the cover and not yours?
Well, I got told that new authors don't sell, so just put my name on it.
Then they never stopped doing that.
And yeah, I really got yanked around, and I was dumb, and I was naive, and I shouldn't have chosen this publisher, and now there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, now they're hounding me to continue this series of The Crow's Child, and I told them no, and now they're upset. Now, admittedly, I feel bad for her, this predatory practice of like, oh, you're never gonna make it in this industry, let me put my name on it, because my name has sway. And it's like, you wish she had Yelp back then?
Yeah.
To not go to, I'm assuming the name of this publisher is like Kurawada Publishing.
Something like that. In fact, I think we see the name of the company on the outside of the building, and I could swear that some of the kanji I was reading was like Kuro.
Well, then that would line up then. Kurawada
It's
Publishing.
just, unfortunately, there were no translations on the screen for the signage on the outside of the building, but I'm pretty sure you're correct, actually. The company is named after him. So the unfortunate part is that she also made a promise to her family.
To her mother and her brother.
Saying, well, I was gonna give myself 3 years in Tokyo, and I was gonna succeed as a children's book author, and if it didn't work out, I was just gonna come straight home. And unfortunately, I've only got exactly 1 month left. And so now there's this book out there, and it's mine, but it doesn't have my name on it, so it doesn't count. So I guess I gotta give up.
And thankfully, Ryo sees this not as an opportunity to go for Mokkori. He decides to actually be encouraging. He's like, no, you got a month. That's enough time. Do your best.
He's actually doing a pretty decent job this episode.
Actually, this whole episode, he's a pretty decent human.
If City Hunter the anime was kind of more like this Ryo right here, I don't think I would ever complain like, oh, this Ryo guy, there's things that I like about him and things that I don't like about him. It makes it this conflicting interest. No, this episode was pretty okay.
Yeah, this is a pretty stand-up Ryo that we're dealing with this week. So he basically agrees, look, we'll help you, or specifically, I will help you. Yuka will cheer you on as she's been doing, but I will go ahead and help you provide protection to make sure these guys don't mess with you while you work on your work. And no sooner does he say this that we actually get to see what Mutsumi Kurawada looks like. He's in these shiny ass shoes, like a purple shirt, white suit, but these shine, like you see the sheen coming off the shoes. Like, are you wearing tinfoil, sir?
Yeah.
Why are your shoes so shiny?
They're extremely waxed.
Like,
very, very waxed shoes.
And this guy's very one-dimensional. We're not going to talk about him a lot. He's just out there like, I want that book. Go get it. And that's it. He's very one-note kind of guy. So we're back at Saori's place watching her work on the book, and Ryo's being kind of nice. He's making tea for her right now.
Yeah.
He's not really trying to hit on her. He wants her to complete the book, but unfortunately a clumsy thing happens where he tries to give her the tea, piping hot, just came off the stove, and unfortunately it spills like on his knee.
Thankfully, it totally misses her art.
Thankfully, yes.
Because, he walks it all the way up to where she's working, which I'm thinking, bro, she's working really, really hard. Maybe go put it on a table or something?
I would have preferred that.
Yeah.
Usually when, happens between us, if I'm working on cosplay or something, or I'm building a model kit, if you need to bring me a drink or something, usually you won't put it directly in front of me in my workstation. You'll put it off to the side.
Right.
That just makes sense.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, that's not what happened here because we need the sight gag. So as Saori's trying to clean up this spill that's just happened, that's when Yuka decides to show up with some sandwiches hey, I got some snacks from the mom. Oh my god, what is happening? And she sees Saori kind of in Ryo's lap, but not really. And somehow, Yuka has her own 10-ton hammer.
It's adorable, actually.
Yeah, she's able to whack Ryo, and then he has got to explain, no, it was a misunderstanding. I was actually being good this week.
Yeah, look, back me up, miss. Back me up, Saori, please.
He's telling the truth. Yeah, he's actually okay this week. There was no assault to report.
No, he didn't even try. And I think that's because a kid is involved.
I think so.
Because I do find Ryo to be the kind of guy that 9 times out of 10, he's weirdly a sucker for kids.
He's got this weird, almost fatherly streak. Not exactly, but definitely, you're right, a soft spot for kids. Whenever a kid's involved, he takes it super seriously.
You would imagine, if he found the right person at the right point in his life, eventually you could see him being real fatherly. It might not be just yet, but if a kid is involved, he doesn't want the kid to get hurt. He doesn't want the kid to be sad. A kid might irritate him from time to time, but in general, he doesn't want to harm a kid.
Yeah, he's always working in the kid's best interest. So, that's definitely one of the most redeeming qualities that Ryo has.
Right.
Now, after some work is done on the book, Ryo decides he's going to go ahead and leave for the night. And it's weird, right here, as he's trying to leave, they actually spent a lot of time animating him putting his shoes back on.
Yeah, stepping down from the living room kind of area down into his shoes and then pulling his shoes up over his heels and stuff. That's usually a step of animation, and certainly, in the 80s when animation was a little bit more laborious, that you just kind of skip, because
right.
I think as a Japanese person, you just assume, oh, well, they're going outside.
They're putting their shoes back on.
They put their shoes on.
But as Ryo is doing this, there's another threatening call from the Men in Black, and they're telling Saori, hey, you better hurry up and finish that book. We're coming for it. It's our book. You can't take it because it's ours. We own it. And she's getting very distraught, so Ryo takes the phone and then, affects a kind of effeminate voice hello, who is this? I can't hear you, and hangs up on him. And it's I'm not sure why he went that way. If it had been me, I would have been more threatening, hey, who's doing that? More put on an Umibozu voice.
No, I think what he was trying to do was just mimic her voice, just mimic Saori's voice.
Oh, and he was just doing it badly.
And he did a bad job because he's Ryo, and
that.
he doesn't nearly reach her
pitch.
Her pitch, right. And then hangs up on them, and they just are oh, who was that? Because that wasn't her. I don't know who that was.
And Kurawada's on the other end I don't know who that was, but keep an eye on him.
You'll see a little bit later that this means that he's going to have to keep up some act of some character that he didn't even know he was creating.
Yes. So as things are going on, Saori's still working on the book, and Yuka and Ryo are still watching out for her, but they see that her work is getting slower. She's not really as upbeat about things, and she's pretty obviously stressed.
Right.
So they devise a plan. All right, you know what? We're gonna get her out of here. Change of pace might be good for her, but we have to bring up before they actually take on that change of pace that as Yuka and Ryo are talking about this, on the table right in front of Yuka, very blatantly is the first example of some product placement we're gonna see throughout for sure the next season, which is this very blatant placement of some peanut M&Ms.
Oh my god. So this is kind of exciting. It doesn't seem exciting at first. You see it in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, and it's an open bag of, yes, very blatantly, specifically peanut M&Ms. It's every single time it comes up from this point on, it is peanut.
Specifically, that yellow packaging.
It's in the yellow bag, and you can see very blatantly, they went very detailed on this particular bag. It says the word peanut on it, and it has a whole bunch of other, Japanese packaging details. The bag is open, a handful of M&Ms have spilled out on the table. You see, the green one right there, just sticking out of the bag. And, yeah, it's gonna keep showing up. It's gonna be like in Cowrie's groceries. It's gonna be like on billboards in the background. This placement is everywhere. I have no idea how much M&M's paid, or like the Mars company or whoever.
Yeah, paid to Sunrise.
But this is how Sunrise kept the lights on during the production of City Hunter up through the next season, is they constantly threw in peanut M&M. Why always peanut?
I don't know. I
Where's
guess because
plain? Where's plain? And I know of like years later, there's a bajillion other types of M&Ms, but figure for the longest time, you pretty much only have plain and peanut.
Yeah, that, like growing up, you know, born in the 80s, growing up in the 90s, that's all I knew. Like when crunchy M&M, when peanut butter M&Ms came out, mind you, people lost their minds. Like we didn't know we could have options. But yeah, at the time, that was all the choice you had. I figure it has to do with the fact that yellow shows up better than brown would.
Oh, that might be true. Man, I wish the French City Hunter film had thrown in a bag of M&Ms.
That would have been a very good Easter egg.
I wish the Takarazuka stage performance had thrown in a bag of M&Ms.
I wish for Shinjuku Private... Well, maybe there are some in Shinjuku Private Eyes and we just didn't notice.
I don't know, but maybe for this next movie coming out later this year...
The Aniplex one that's coming out.
They'll throw in a bag of peanut M&Ms.
We can
somewhere.
only hope.
They probably won't. It was like the one-time product placement and it's over. But it's so prominent. M&Ms are part of City Hunter.
Especially in those first two seasons. It's just insane how often you see them. But product placement aside, it's time to go ahead and have a day out to try and get everybody's mind off the terrible men in black that are haunting them. So the three of them, Yuka, Saori, and Ryo, head off to a theme park, which, looking into it, very easily could have been based on a real theme park there in Japan called Yomiuri Land. And you see actually a lot of anime reference Yomiuri Land in their art when you see a lot of, you know, characters go on a date to the amusement park. Usually it's drawn after Yomiuri Land unless otherwise specified.
It's 35 minutes out from Shinjuku, which I think sounds like a pretty decent distance for Ryo to be able to travel because he's based out of Shinjuku. It seems like the most realistic place they could have gone. It doesn't just appear in anime, like we watch a lot of tokusatsu, you know, live action special effects shows. So Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, these are the Japanese source materials for Power Rangers and Masked Rider. Well, they show up at Yomiuri Land all the time to film all kinds of stuff, and I think they even have like live action stage shows that sometimes perform there.
They've had those for decades.
Yeah, so this is in pop culture like a lot. So I would very strongly believe that this is based on Yomiuri Land, even though they do not expressly say as much.
And again, to keep up with product placement as they're there riding the rides, going on roller coasters and merry-go-rounds, what do we hear in the background? Go Heaven is playing in the background again.
I want to point out another product placement that we did not mention a little bit earlier when they were on that phone call.
Oh, yes.
Which is going to be important here in a second, is referring to the phone call where suddenly Ryo has changed his voice to sound all feminine and stuff. You see before they pick up the phone, the NTT logo, which is like the Japanese phone company like AT&T or whatever. And it's like expressly that logo. And I don't know if that's them just kind of sneakily getting away with a real world entity, or if NTT also paid for product placement, like, hey, just put our name in there for some reason.
Well, if that's the case, like, you'd have to think about all the other product placement we've seen in these last, like, almost 30 episodes, like BMW or Kodak or all of these other brands.
Or the No City Malls.
Yes.
In the background, like, right out of the gate, episode 1. Marui, these malls, you know, that are in Shinjuku.
Because as we've covered before, there are real brands that get used all the time here in City Hunter. So, yeah, it's entirely possible. So as they're taking a break from the rides to have lunch there, the Men in Black run up on them again. Hey, you got those pages ready? And then they see Ryo there with them, and because of the voice that he used, the translation they use here in the subtitles, they question him, hey, is that the pansy we heard on the phone?
Which is kind of offensive, but actually Ryo just kind of rolls with it, and he's like, why, yes, I am. It just really affecting a voice. Like, he's not offended. He's just like, well, if that's who they think I am, then
that's who I'm gonna be. That's not a problem. Is there a problem with sounding that way? No, there isn't. And, they're questioning him like, well, you better keep your nose out of this business if you know what's good for you. And it's like, oh, you're so brutish. Why are you acting this way? And then after they step to him enough times, then he just whoops their asses.
Yeah.
Which is great, because, they've
he
had it coming.
literally punches him or kicks him?
No, he literally kicks him in the ass.
Directly in the butt. Right in the butt. And kind of face plants into, like, a food station.
Yeah.
But on the side of the food station is a trash can that says, what does it say?
Dast?
What is a dast? Like, it's on the swinging door where you would put your trash, where usually it would just say, like, push or something, but it says D-A-S-T?
Yeah, in Roman alphabet, so we're not sure what that meant.
What is a dast?
I do not know.
Okay, great.
And he beats up the other guy, and he ends up on, like, a kid's train with, like, a monkey on it.
Which I'm pretty sure is a thing that Yomiuri Land had or has currently, one of the two. Like, I'm pretty positive that an episode of Sailor Moon, very early on in Sailor Moon, they also visit a theme park, and there's a little tiny kiddie train ride that looks a whole lot like that. I'd be extremely willing to bet it's the same location.
So after Ryo has effectively beaten them both up and run them off, everybody's very thankful that Ryo has done this kind service. Yuka decides, you know what, now is a good time to go ahead and pay Ryo for his services. Tells him not to look, like it's a little bit embarrassing to her, like maybe this is the only money she's got. But she hands him a nice small 500 yen coin. For those of you who don't know, if you've never been to Japan before, the way that currency works, for 100 yen and 500 yen, they're coins, not bills. And so a 500 yen coin is about the size of a quarter.
Maybe a hair bigger than a quarter, but
maybe
not
a tiny bit.
But not by much. Yeah. So you can be spending like up to $5-ish bucks, give or take, depending on the day, because of conversion, in just a coin. One singular coin.
But at least for my money, literally for my money, it kind of gets hard to keep track of it because you're so used to having bills. But then when you've got coins, you're not thinking about it as much, so you spend them faster.
Yeah, and much like pennies, the 1 yen coins are just like, well, nobody wants these. We gotta get rid of these as quickly as we possibly can. You know, something else that I found interesting is if you find spare change on the ground in Japan, people mostly leave it alone. It's not like I would do, like, oh, I found a penny on the ground, sweet, and I keep it.
I don't bend over for less than a quarter.
I did that.
Why'd I say that?
I don't know, Josh, that was awful. I did that with some change in Japan, and I realized sometime after I picked up some change in Japan, I saw some more change on the ground, and it was a bunch of 1 yens, and it was in a big old stack on the ground, just left there.
That's weird.
And it made me think that somebody found them and stacked them up and then just left them there because they were like, well, somebody might come back for that. I don't know. It's not my money. They just were trying to be kind, and they left this stack of 1 yen on the sidewalk. I was really confused.
I guess that speaks more to, like, one of the other things that we're into is we play a lot of the Yakuza series, and in one of the more recent installments in Yakuza Like a Dragon, there's a mechanic where you specifically go around picking up change off the ground.
Yeah, so somebody clearly is desperate enough to pick up this money, but I guess if you're not hurting for money, you think, oh, that's not my money, I shouldn't take it. Even if it's just 1 yen.
So we say all that to say it wouldn't be hard for Ryo to walk around even then and just find 500 yen on the ground. So it's not a lot of money by any stretch of the imagination, but Ryo takes it to heart, like, this is some of the most valuable payment I've ever gotten.
Right.
Like, he's really happy to have gotten it.
It's that soft spot for a kid.
And I guess it must have done some good because, the next day rolls around and Saori's done. She's finished her book, and now all we need to do is get her over to a better publisher. Thankfully, she has one lined up. She heads over there with Ryo, and immediately they're like, we want to sign you. Can we publish your book under your name, of course? So it seems like everything's working out.
So it appears that Ryo and Saori have left, and of course, who else shows up but dudes from Bullshit Publishing Company.
The Men in Black are back.
Men in Black with the hats and the glasses and the suits. They're trying to murder over a children's book. They show up and they're like, hey, did that girl come in here and leave you some art? Oh yeah, there's the art right there on the table. Why? We're gonna take that. We have the sole publishing rights to this person's art, so give it to us right now. Okay, bye.
We were never here. And then they leave in a huff. This is why I love Ryo for this this, he set that up. He knew they were going to do that they were going to run up in here, try and strong arm him, hey, give us that manuscript, and leave. So he booby-trapped it, or he did a switch out.
Yeah, with just blank sheets of paper. But here's my question. Do they legitimately have sole publishing rights to everything that this woman does? And would the other publisher, who's the good publisher, be like, I actually legally can't do this?
I doubt it, because I figure the way it's set up over on their end, they probably had it set up in their contracts to where her name wasn't really on them anyway. They just paid her a little bit to keep her satiated, but still keep her in line, like keep them wanting more.
I guess that could be.
I figure it'd be easier for her to get out of any contract she had if they had it set up that way, which I totally believe, because they're crooks.
That's true. And the good publisher dude was like, I really hate the way that other publisher works anyway. They're a bunch of dicks. So I guess even if he's risking the legality of it, he's cool with it just because he hates the other guys.
Yeah, it's like that line from, what was it? It was either Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker where Domhnall Gleeson says that line, oh, I don't want you guys to win, I just want Kylo Ren to lose. Like, it's that... Spite makes the world go around sometimes.
Yeah, I understand that perfectly well.
I know you do.
Thank you. Too bad this is an audio.
I know. Nobody will see the smile on your face but me.
Okay. Aww.
And the thing about it is, not only are we complimenting that Ryo has handled the situation very well, very capably this whole episode, now he's just going to be a straight up badass just because he can. So not only has he faked out the Men in Black, we go to the next shot of the Men in Black dropping off the manuscript back in front of Kurawada. He sees that it's full of blank sheets, so they're worthless to him. Kurawada has a guy there. We don't know who this guy is. He's just a guy in a robe. And he's like, all right, I didn't want to have to bring you in, but I don't have a choice. Here's your money up front. I want you to take care of this guy who's giving us a hard time. Because they don't know who it is right now that's helping Saori keep them at bay. They just know somebody else is involved. We don't know if this guy's a hitman. We don't know if he's a strongman. We don't know if he's a sweeper necessarily. He's just some guy. We don't even get a name, but he's there at the office because this guy's got him on payroll.
It's weird that a book publisher needs this sort of manpower? Well, I don't understand.
You get the feeling, based off this guy's demeanor and the way he's drawn, specifically Kurawada here, that this might be a Yakuza front.
That's entirely possible.
Like, you look at this guy and you're like, oh yeah, he's totally, if he's not ex-Yakuza, this is a Yakuza front.
Certainly, they're just scammers at the very least.
At the least, yeah. So Kurawada pays this guy off, slides the money across the table, gangster style, and the guy, who we're just going to refer to as Guy in a Robe, because that's all we're given, is like, all right, I'll take your money, but is this guy going to be good? Is he a worthy opponent? And immediately the door swings open. There's Ryo, and he's like, oh, you talking about me?
Heard you bitches talking about me. Here I am.
I heard you were talking crap. And everybody's like, oh no, that's the dude. That's the dude right here.
Oh, that's the dude, huh? What's he got? A gun?
Well, not only does he got a gun, he's got footsteps. This is because this is a badass scene, and he proceeds to beat up the Men in Black again for what is this, the third time now?
At least the third time this episode. And then shows off his magnum to Robe Guy.
Well, first what happens is, before he can even bother to pull it out, dude's like, well, normally I wouldn't try to fight this way, but I just took the money, so I'm honor bound to fight you. And he pulls a knife on Ryo. He tries to get him with the knife. He's like, rah, with the knife. He misses, and then Ryo pulls out his gun, and this dude is aware of something, because as soon as he pulls the gun, he's like,
no, I know what a Magnum is.
I know what a 357 Magnum is. Are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm City Hunter.
And all these other guys, I'm not sure that they knew what's a city hunter.
But this guy knew. So at minimum, he's in the underworld.
At minimum, he is in whatever circle the 10-year-old girl is in.
That's true. The 10-year-old and this guy in the robe have access to the same
information. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it right now. What if it's her dad?
It's a weird headcanon, but at the same time, you're just like, how did she know, Josh?
It's the only thing that makes sense to me right now. Like, this dude who works...
Dad, why did you try to fight City Hunter so that the publisher could manipulate our sweet neighbor. Why did you do this?
And the dad's like, I didn't know. I did it for the money. like you think about it, like who else would have told her? Like that would have tied this whole episode together beautifully if that was the case. They don't confirm that. That's just headcanon. I just got to clear that up right now. That's headcanon. But I would love that if that was the truth.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm going to choose to believe now. Thanks, Josh.
But he sees the 357. He sees Rio admitting, oh yeah, I'm City Hunter. Run. And he's like, no, take the money. I'm out.
Well, Rio is very much not afraid to potentially use force on this guy if he does not back down. And so he's like, hey, you better not mess around with this girl again.
Well, yeah, specifically after Guy in a Robe books it, he's got Kurawada at gunpoint, telling him,
like, hey, man, let her go. Let her do the art that she wants to do and stop asking her to do the art, or else I've got this gun.
And I'm gonna send you to hell.
And dude's like, okay, fine. But he wasn't really serious about it because the second Rio takes the gun away from dude's face,
turns his back for just a second.
Then Kurawada's like, I see that knife that the other guy had. It's on the ground. I'm gonna run after it real fast, as if City Hunter can't hear the dude running for the knife.
Yeah, like you're the only person left in the room.
Stupidest move.
The dumbest of asses right now. He goes for the knife, and sure enough, Rio blows the knife. Like, he totally disintegrates the knife with one of the bullets. And then, just to prove a point, he empties the rest of his chambers out, giving this guy a haircut. Like, buzzes all through his hair.
Something like 5 bullets.
Yeah, straight over his hairline. He's like, I warned you, bitch. Didn't I warn you?
You better not show up again. So we can only assume that he does not show up again. And sure enough, with just 3 days left to go within the month, like, man, we actually skipped a lot of time.
We did, yeah, because you're looking at a minimum 4 weeks. She said at the beginning of the episode, I have exactly 1 month until my deadline's up, and now with 3 days to go, so on average, if we're saying that this is like a 30-day month, right, that means he was on the case for like 27 days.
Well, let's say that actually he resolved the issue in like 3 days. Okay.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right.
It just means he kept up with it and made sure that her book got published the rest of the month. He just kept kind of checking into the book publisher and the printer.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, so, like, he stayed nose to the grindstone about, hey, you gonna finish this? Because I told this lady that I was going to help her make sure that this book got published before her deadline and before she gives up on making children's books for the rest of her life. So he has successfully done that. He and little 10-year-old girl, Yuka, have now approached Saori sitting in the park just thinking about, oh no, I've only got 3 days. I hope the book publisher actually publishes and prints my book with my name on it. I got it right
here. Yeah.
Rio shows up and he's like, surprise, bitch, here's your book.
And we have the title of the book here, Jizo of the Mountain Pass. Obviously a children's book. It's got a little monkey, a little rabbit, a little mouse, a little crow, and a little mole on the cover.
Well, we think it's a mole anyway. We're not really sure what that last one is.
It could be 2 mice.
It is some sort of fuzzy mammal.
But there's also a statue on the cover.
Right, so the Jizo, like a Buddhist little statue, you often see them planted around, like, mountain paths.
And shrines.
And shrines and stuff, oftentimes near Buddhist shrines. We saw a number of them while we were walking up to that Buddhist temple that's up the mountain at
Mount Iwafune.
Mount Iwafune, that's right, which is overlooking where they film, like, that rock quarry, quote unquote, for Super Sentai and Power Rangers and stuff like that.
Beautiful place.
Anyway, so that's what a Jizo statue is, and so it's like this cutesy Buddhist-ish children's book tale where this Buddhist little monk statue is talking to a bunch of animals. It looks cute.
Weren't they also in Ghost of Tsushima?
Pretty sure, yeah, you interact with some Jizo statues.
And so yeah, everything seems to be wrapping up nicely. Saudi asks Rio, now that everything's been taken care of, I have my dream accomplished, how can I ever repay you? And Rio starts walking off all badass again, being like, nope, I've got all the payment I need right here. And he just flips the 500 yen coin in the air, catches it. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna hold on to that.
I almost thought for a second he was gonna give the $5 back to the girl. I guess it's okay that he keeps it so that he kind of ends up looking like, well, I still take money from children, so don't think I'm too soft.
Yeah. You gotta be a little hard around children, a little bit.
At the same time, I feel like that girl got a pretty good deal.
She got a sweet deal out of that. Like, as Get Wild is playing, we're zooming out on him. We're thinking about that to ourselves, like, how much money was that whole case worth? Like, if it had been an adult asking Ryo to help out, how much would he have charged? And she got all of that value for just 500 yen.
I really do suppose. Like, she and Saori look pretty happy with the way things have turned out in that final panel right there. And that final cell painting right there. So I guess they're not upset like, oh no, Ryo actually took the 500 yen. No, they must be like, oh, thank God he did it for only 500 yen.
Yeah, like he kept to his end of the bargain, which again, through this whole episode, Ryo's been a really stand-up guy. And you imagine there's something to that, like him going back to the apartment and Cowdy asking about it. Because remember, we only saw Cowdy at the beginning of the episode. She wasn't involved in the plot for the most part.
That's true.
But he's gonna come back, like, you know, into the apartment. Cowdy's gonna be like having dinner ready. And she's like, so how'd it go? And he's like, I kept the 500 yen. And like, how's that gonna look to her? Like, oh, this jerk, he still kept the kid's money.
I don't know if it's gonna be, oh, he kept the kid's money, or, oh my God, he didn't charge them for actually doing the job, or, oh, that's nice of him, he did something nice for a kid. I don't know which of those decisions she's gonna go with.
Because really, any of them would realistically be something Cowdy would come to the conclusion of.
That's true, depending on how she feels that day.
So yeah, that's our episode. This is a nice one. I would definitely recommend watching this episode.
100%. This one ended up being nice, mostly unoffensive. Maybe you would get offended by the one time the guys used the word pansy and then Ryo just sort of affected being feminine, but I really feel like he was just doing that to stay in the character that these bad guys thought he was in unintentionally.
I prefer thinking that he rolled with it.
I think he just rolled with it, thank God. I think that's all that it was.
Which I'm much more satisfied with. So on next week's episode, Cowdy is going to take center stage as she gets a suitor.
Yeah, there's some other dude who's actually interested in Kaori. And on top of that, this might be one of the first times that people are kind of starting to ask, hey, Ryo, are you and Kaori like a thing? Like finally somebody starts making like a big deal out of it.
Yes.
That's where I'm starting to get really interested. Like, ooh, they're actually moving along. Character development.
Specifically between the two of them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's going to be real interesting. You'll want to listen to that.
So please do come back next time when we cover the 30th episode of the TV series, Ryo's Rival in Love? Give me Kaori!
If you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on Twitter. I'm at JoshKnightFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 29th episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, I'm gonna ruin Josh's elaborate domino setup.
But I worked a long time on that!